In the summer of 2023, South Korean authorities charged a 65-year-old semiconductor expert who had spent decades at the top of the industry. He was in detention for attempting an intellectual property heist of massive proportions. His target? The proprietary blueprints and cleanroom designs drafted between 2018 and 2019. These sterile environments are where silicon is transformed into advanced microchips, and the stolen designs were worth over $236 million to Samsung. The executive didn't just want to sell secrets, he intended to use them to build a literal brick-for-brick copycat factory in the Chinese city of Xi'an, right next to Samsung's own existing facility. While stealing blueprints is typically a matter of corporate litigation, prosecutors escalated the case. They charged him with stealing national core technology, a category of assets whose loss is viewed as a threat to the security of the entire country. This raises a question. Why are the floor plans of one company's factory being prosecuted as a direct attack on a sovereign nation? To find the answer, we have to look at how the South Korean economy was built. By 1950, war had effectively destroyed the South Korean economy. The nation possessed almost no natural resources or industrial infrastructure, and most of its land was too rugged for large-scale agriculture. Rebuilding required a radical strategy. Under President Park Chung-hee, the government funneled its limited state resources and international aid into a select group of family-owned businesses rather than a diversified market. These family-controlled conglomerates are known as Chaebols. Supported by cheap steel and massive subsidies, they were tasked with pulling the country out of poverty by flooding the global market with exports. Samsung, which began as a small shop trading dried fish and noodles, became the apex of this system. It aggressively expanded from food and textiles into heavy industry and electronics, eventually becoming the country's most powerful corporate entity. This decades-long government engineering created a unique structural vulnerability. South Korea's economic foundation became permanently welded to a few massive monopolies. Today, that concentration of power has reached an extreme scale. Revenue from the Samsung Group accounts for roughly 20% of the entire nation's GDP. This level of dominance is unusual. Toyota accounts for 5% of Japan's GDP. Walmart sits at 2.5% of the US. When Samsung's 20% share is added, it completely dwarfs the economic footprint of nearly any other major corporation. This means the state's budget, employment rates, and global standing are tied to Samsung's ability to stay ahead of its competitors. If the company loses its technological advantage, the national economy loses its primary engine of growth. A Chinese copycat factory undercutting Samsung would directly siphon off a portion of the wealth that sustains the South Korean state. In this context, corporate theft becomes an undeniable national security crisis. The blueprints at the center of the Xi'an heist were for advanced semiconductors. These chips are the foundational components of modern infrastructure, required for everything from artificial intelligence to cutting-edge weapon systems. To maintain a strategic advantage, the United States and its allies have enacted aggressive export controls to limit China's access to chip-making technology. These embargoes have infuriated Beijing and left China's massive electronics industry starved for advanced supplies. Without a steady flow of high-end chips, China's technological growth faces a hard ceiling. This desperation creates a lucrative black market for stolen intellectual property. When advanced technology cannot be bought through traditional trade, it must be acquired through other means. The 65-year-old executive wasn't just a rogue actor. His attempt to move Samsung's cleanroom designs into China was an inevitable consequence of an escalating global tech embargo. South Korea now finds itself in a geopolitical crossfire. It relies on the US for military security, but it depends on China as a primary export market and manufacturing hub. While the South Korean public frequently protests the corruption and influence of the Chaebols, the government consistently prioritizes their survival. The state simply cannot afford for its largest taxpayer to fail. This economic reality leads to a recurring cycle of legal leniency. Even when top executives are convicted of bribery or fraud, they are often pardoned by the president to ensure they can continue leading the nation's most vital industry. The former executive behind the Xi'an factory plan remains in custody. His arrest prevented a massive transfer of wealth, but it also highlighted the fragility of a nation built on the back of a single company. In the 21st century, global power is no longer defined by geographic borders alone. The new front lines of conflict are inside the clean room blueprints of tech monopolies that hold the fate of entire nations in their hands.